In this video, we'll discuss how many carbs you should eat in order to lose weight. Hi ladies and gentlemen, I'm Dr. Zarowski and welcome back to the channel. If you're new to the channel, it's a pleasure to have you here. Be sure to subscribe, hit that bell notification, and join our notification community so I can help you excel your health and your life. In this video, we're talking about how much carbs should I eat in order to lose weight. This is a big question in our community because there's a lot of confusion around it. First of all, how many carbs should you eat, but also how to properly count your carbs. So that's what I'm going to teach you in this video, how to properly count your carbs and also how many you need to actually eat if you want to lose weight. Let's dive right into this. Now, when we look at this carb equation, there's something called total carbs and there's something called net carbs. Now, total carbs is including the fiber within the carb equation, and your net carbs is removing the fiber from it. And the reason that we actually want to follow the net carbs is because we really need to have that fiber in our diet. Now, some people who are going and following a ketogenic diet or a low carb diet and they're taking the carbohydrate level too low, essentially what they're doing is they're disrupting their body in a much negative manner. And the reason for that is because fiber actually has many benefits that our body needs. And so that's why we actually want to be aware of this equation as to how to count carbohydrates so we're not decreasing our overall level of health. Now, the benefits of fiber include lowering body fat. It also supports decreasing insulin and blood sugar. It supports the good bacteria. This is very important because if you're following the ketogenic diet and you are decreasing your carbohydrates to a level that is far too low, you're going to be killing off your bad bacteria. You're going to be hurting your gut health. The bacteria within your gut need that fiber. So it's also going to increase satiety, improve insulin sensitivity, and decrease your risk of heart disease. Now, what I want to do is give you some examples of this equation, okay? So let's take a couple of vegetables here. For instance, let's start with broccoli, and this is all based on 1 cup. So 1 cup of broccoli is a total carb amount of 11 grams. When we take that fiber out, we take out those 5 grams of fiber, and we end up with 6 grams of net carbs. Now remember, we want to actually use this net carb equation. A cauliflower, 5 grams, take out the 2 grams of fiber, and we end up with 3 grams of net carbs. So you can see why this makes such a big difference, especially when it comes to romaine lettuce, because we have 1 gram of total carbs, but when we take out the fiber, we end up with a 0 gram net carb equation here. Next here is zucchini, 4 grams, take out 1, you end up with 3. And then black olives is just like romaine lettuce, where you're actually going and you have that 1 gram you start with, but at the end of the equation, you end up with 0 grams. Now, once again, this is so important because when you're figuring out how many carbs you should eat, we actually want to use this equation because we don't want to restrict our fiber intake too much. So very important, especially when on the ketogenic diet. Now, when it comes to losing weight and discussing how many carbs you need to eat, this is important because there's really 2 ways I break down as to how you need to do this. You can follow a ketogenic diet or you can follow a low carb diet, okay? What's the difference? So on the ketogenic diet, you're going to be doing 50 grams or less of carbohydrates. If you really want to get deep into that fat burning state, you can drop it down to even 20 grams of net carbohydrates. And then in the ketogenic diet, you're measuring ketosis, okay? So this is a diet that you're actually measuring to see if you are in the state of ketosis. That's how the ketogenic diet is followed. And then also on the keto diet, it's going to be high fat, low carb, okay? Now, the other diet that I'm going to mention is the low carb diet. Now, this is where most people really fall. This is the end of the continuum that most people are actually on. Many people claim to be following the ketogenic diet, but they're really just following a low carb diet because they're not measuring ketosis. They're not seeing if they're in the state of ketosis. They're not measuring their carb intake. They're just eating a high fat, low carb diet. And that's completely okay. Now, a low carb diet is classified as one that is 100 grams or less of net carbs. It also is removing a lot of the processed food, the sugary drinks, the sugary snacks, and the grains as well. It's still a high-fat, low-carb diet, just a good whole food diet. You'll allow more things like fruits in your diet. You'll allow more high-quality food. You'll allow a little bit more carbohydrates in your diet as well. Both of these are great diets. Now, if you really want to get deep in the fat burning and do it quickly, you're going to want to be on the ketogenic diet. Now, if you want to go in and, let's say lose fat slowly, if you want to go in and maintain a good healthy body weight, let's say you are where you want to be and you are exercising, doing all the right things, a low carb diet is a great diet to be on. Now you have to understand with the low carb diet, because people say, well, I want to be on the ketogenic diet because that's 50 grams or less, I'm going to get much better results. But understand that the average person is consuming 300 grams of carbohydrates or more a day. So when we look at the average individual, you take them from 300 to 100, there's going to be a big change in the way that their body's functioning. There's going to be a big decrease in insulin levels, their blood sugar levels. They're going to start losing weight, okay? So that's a good quality diet for many people. And like I said, many people who actually claim to be doing keto are really just doing a low-carb diet, and that's completely fine. So anyway, when we look at how to lose weight, use these different keto/low-carb equations. When we look at counting our carbohydrates, let's make sure that we're actually using net carbs and not total carbs, because that's the proper way to do it. Remove that fiber. Our body needs that fiber, so we have to make sure we're getting adequate amounts of it. Then also be sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so yet. I'd greatly appreciate that as well. And check out my other videos on how you can improve your health. I'll see you in the next video.